Thunderbreaker guide? Okay. Whoa, that was lightning fast. Okay, let's just rewind that and slow everything down. Thunderbreaker is the pirate Cygnus Knight with, in my opinion, a lot of really fun skills for everything they do. They have an answer for just about everything the game tosses at them, and once you learn how to properly flow their skills together, are an insanely fast class, both in terms of mobility and dishing out attacks. Hey, what's that over there? Oh, it's the beginner skills. Every Cygnus Knight gets these. Here you have a very basic mobbing skill that kinda mobs in a very small range in front of you, a basic flash jump that also counts as an up jump, and a couple passives. Elemental Harmony gives you one main stat for every 2 levels you gain. In Thunderbreaker's case, it'd be Strength. And Elemental Expert simply increases your attack and magic attack by 10%. Nothing crazy exciting here, pretty basic stuff all Cygnus classes get. First job is the start of you being a Thunderbreaker, in both rank and spirit of what to expect from this class. First off, Lightning Punch is a simple mobbing attack, and Flash is a teleporting attack that zips right to enemies. I'll note that it can only be used on the ground. Using Lightning Punch right after Flash, or Flash and a Lightning Punch, lets you link the 2 skills together. Doing so cancels the animations of each, which saves a little bit of time with end lag on each of the skills. Trust me, it adds up in the long run, so this is real nice. At later job ranks, you're going to get a lot more of these skills that all link into each other, with like 1 or 2 exceptions. I'll explain them when we get there. Up next is this toggle that works in conjunction with your skill linking. Lightning Elemental gives you a chance to generate 1 lightning charge with your attacks, and 2 when linking skills together. Each stack gives some flat additive IED, and when said charges get consumed, you temporarily get what the game calls an adjusted buff, which decreases when you gain more lightning charges. I'm not entirely sure what that means, but the important thing, turn it on, gain free stats and charges you'll use with later level skills. Lastly, at first, all that's left is this passive that gives you some movement speed, jump, and extra chance to generate lightning charges. Second job? Okay, let's just get these out of the way first. Passives for a better lightning boost, mastery, attack speed and some flat main stat, and 1 for crit rate and crit damage, plus some more main stat. Okay, we good? Now the actual cool skills. First off, Sea Wave is a skill that only activates when you successfully link 2 skills together. When you do so, a ball of lightning comes out of you, trailing all over the ground and falling off platforms and bouncing off walls, etc. for the next few seconds. It stops after attacking 24 enemies or traveling a distance of 2,700, which I'm assuming is in pixels. 12-second cooldown in between ball creations, and if you ever wanted this lightning ball to go away and not come out every 12 seconds, for some reason, simply right-click to toggle it off, or just don't combo. So what kind of attacks does TB get at second? Well, Shark Sweep does a mobbing attack all around you, and Tidal Crash, which can only be used on the ground, is a cool looking wave that rushes forward. For some reason, it's the only attack of yours that doesn't generate lightning charge. You can cancel a Tidal Crash early if you click down while moving during it, or if you right-click the skill, you can instead cancel it by clicking the skills button again while moving. You can link either of these new attacks into all your previous job skills, and casting both Tidal Crash and Flash lets you zoom across any and all maps horizontally. You ever wonder if you're linking your skills properly in a way that the game knows you're linking your skills? Well, you know, aside from Sea Wave's ball every 12 seconds. Third job gives you a visual indicator for exactly that, Link Mastery. Since linking skills together on Thunderbreaker is important to get more attacks out quicker, you're now incentivized to link them with a stacking final damage buff, with each stack lasting 30 seconds and the buff stacking up to 3 times. You also get all these passives for resistances, more crit rate and damage, another lightning charge upgrade, all that kind of stuff. Okay, attacks. Speaking of lightning charges, you can finally use up those stacks of them through Gale. Once you have 3 charges, click it, and it does this big windy attack in front of you and eats up said 3 charges. When used at max lightning charge stacks, it gains increased damage. The more stacks you have also results in a buff for yourself. 2% extra damage per lightning charge stack, and said buff lasts for a whole minute, 20-second cooldown. These next 2 complement each other pretty well. First, Ascension sends you and all enemies around you flying up into the air, and it can also be used in the air multiple times, just so long as you're high enough. Second, Thunder can only be used 1 time while in the air, and rushes down and forward in front of where you cast it. Thunder is special in that most of your other skills do not chain into it as the first skill. However, you can use everything else after Thunder, excluding Thunder itself. Fourth job keeps the flow of linking skills going with your arguably best skill links. Maple Warrior and Hero's Will. Jokes aside, you get more passives for various offensive and defensive stats, of course another lightning charge upgrade, a buff that gives 2 extra stages of attack speed, and a new toggle. Arc Charger simply adds an extra hit onto all your skills that does 70% of set attack's final damage. That's it. Typhoon is an upgrade to Gale, and can still get more damage at max lightning charge stacks, as well as gives you a buff per lightning charge stack you have. This time the buff goes from 2% damage per stack to 3% per stack, lasts for 90 seconds, and the cooldown is now halved down to 12 seconds. Now for your main attacks you'll use often from here on out. Thunderbolt is a mobbing skill that slams an anchor down at a bunch of mobs directly in front of you, and Annihilate summons a very friendly shark that chomps on one enemy in front of you. Of course, both these attacks link into everything else you do, including each other. Hyper skills finally give you a map-wide attack right from the start. Deep Rising summons a giant sea god beneath you, damaging enemies and also making you invincible during its animation. As per usual, it can be linked into with all your other skills, minus itself and Thunder, and specifies that it links faster with Tidal Crash, 45-second cooldown. Glory of the Guards is the epic adventure equivalent for Cygnus Knights, 10% damage for you and all other Cygnus classes in the party, including Mihail, 1 minute uptime, 2 minute cooldown. Your third hyper skill, Primal Bolt, is a buff that gives both damage and IED per lightning charge stack you have, as well as stops consuming your lightning charges for its entire 30-second duration. It also lowers the cooldown of certain Link Mastery skills, like Sea Wave. These other 2 skills you get at 5th job, so don't worry about those quite yet. Just know at 5th job this buff becomes even more useful, 2 minute cooldown. You also consume no mana while Primal Bolt is active. Hyper passives are just upgrades mainly to your skills you'll be using frequently. Starting with Gale. For these, the main ones you'll want to consider and get are Reinforce for extra damage, and Extra Strike for an extra line of damage. While this can help with grinding, these passive choices in particular are mainly for bossing, because of your ability to spam Gale when Primal Bolt is active. Spread is just a bad choice, since you're limited by cooldowns for when you can use it. It would only be used for if you're grinding, and honestly, you're better spending your points on anything else. If you plan to grind a lot on your Thunderbreaker though, it's not a bad idea to get all these Thunderbolt upgrades. Reinforce for extra damage, Spread for an extra 2 mobs hit on a skill you can spam, and Extra Strike for an extra line of damage. Just remember to swap off them when you go back to bossing though. For just a purely bossing setup, you'll only need and want Extra Strike. You get more damage out of an extra line than the 20% overall damage from Reinforce, I think in particular because of critical hits. Lastly, Annihilate passives. You can't really go wrong with any of these for bossing. Since you have a limited number of points though, forego Guard Break for IED entirely, and just get Reinforce for extra damage, and Boss Rush for extra boss damage. 5th job, okay, yeah, it does have a couple more linking skills. Let's start with Shark Torpedo. You can only use it once you have at least 2 lightning charges, and it simply sends a big shark surging forward, about half a screen width away. When your lightning charges are max stacks, Shark Torpedo does more damage, 8-second cooldown. Lightning Spear Multi-Strike is both an attack and a 1-minute buff. The buff itself starts at 12 stacks, and just indicates how many more times you can use Multi-Strike, and it gives you a minute to use up the remaining stacks. The attack itself eats up said stacks, and does a bunch of damage to enemies in front of you per hit it does. At the very end on its last stack, it does 1 big final hit for more damage and enemies hit. Each one of Multi-Strike's 12 attacks can be linked into with your other attacks too. 2-minute cooldown from the moment you initially cast it. Lightning God Spear Strike is a sick name for a skill. It also stacks up to 8 times, which build up every time you successfully link your attacks together. Once it hits 8 stacks, you can click the skill to use it, or have it pop automatically by right-clicking the skill. The skill itself is a trident that hits enemies all around it for a bunch of damage. 7-second cooldown in between creations, but you can build up the stacks even while it's on cooldown. I'd recommend keeping this one on autocast. Lightning Cascade has 2 sides to it. The first is a passive that only works when the buff is not active. Every attack you do shoots a lightning bolt that arcs to nearby enemies, and there's a 6-second cooldown in between lightning creations. The second part is the buff itself, and it increases your final damage, and shoots lightning with your attacks, hitting multiple enemies. Subsequent hits on enemies per lightning bolt does less damage, and they hit up to 4 nearby enemies. If it only hits 1 enemy though, it does increase damage. 3-second cooldown in between lightning creations when it's active, 37-second duration at level 1, going up to 52 seconds at max level, 2-minute overall skill cooldown. Now for the shared Cygnus skills. Empress Cygnus's Blessing is a buff that gives you extra damage, and throughout the duration periodically restores a percentage of your health and increases your damage, which stacks up and caps out at 90%. 45-second duration, 2-minute cooldown. At 245, you can upgrade this to Transcendent Cygnus's Blessing by doing the quest Moonbridge Cygnus Awakens, which gives more of everything it originally gave, and also now including a defensive buff that reduces your damage taken. Same duration and cooldown. Phalanx Charge sends your Spearman Cygnus friends charging forward, damaging all enemies in their path. Click the skill again at any point to change the direction, and they go away after a certain number of hits, or if they travel a set distance. 30-second cooldown. Lastly, let's wrap up all these skills with shared pirate nodes. Loaded Dice gives you 2 skills. Loaded Dice itself lets you choose a number between 1 and 6, with each number giving these corresponding buffs. The ones you'll want to ever even think about getting are 5 for extra damage, and 6 for extra XP. The rest are pretty ignorable. Once you choose a number, click Roll the Dice to roll said number, and get said buff. 3-minute duration, 3-minute cooldown, and if you use Roll the Dice without choosing a number beforehand, it gives you one of those 6 buffs randomly. Overdrive is mainly a burst-centric skill, giving you a bunch of attack power based on a percentage of your weapon's base attack power while it's active. However, once it goes on cooldown, your overall attack is reduced by a percentage of your base weapon's attack power until it comes back off cooldown. 70-second cooldown at level 1, going down to 60 seconds or 1 minute at max level, and the buff has a 28-second duration at all levels. Thunderbreaker may on the surface look like a combo-heavy class, or have a lot of skills with aspects that may be just a slight overload of information to remember. So yeah, of course I'm going to break them down, and hopefully make them easier for you to understand. I'm going to change this guide up from my usual formula though, and actually split this Made Easy section into 2 parts. One important aspect about this class I don't even see the TB Discord itself explicitly mentioning anywhere is the importance of linking your skills together. They go over it briefly at parts, but don't really highlight what works well together with what, so let me give some examples. First off though, there's not a tight window for linking your skills perfectly, nor is it imperative you string a bunch of them together in a certain way for optimal damage or whatever. Beyond, building up lightning charges and link mastery stacks. Most of these skill links are only 2 to 3 skills long anyways. It really isn't as scary as it sounds. Okay, now for the links. Tidal Crash animation cancels every one of your attacks when used after said attack. This includes your one and only iframe, Deep Rising. Using Tidal Crash right after you cast it breaks you out of its long animation and lets you get right back to the fight to dish out some more damage while staying invincible during its animation. Tidal Crash does have its limits though, as it's only able to be used while on the ground, so try to keep that in mind. I mentioned it earlier during second job section, but I'll say it again. Spamming Tidal Crash followed by Flash lets you zip across maps really fast. Chain those 2 with a Thunderbolt at the very start of this string, and you got yourself your main method of grinding in horizontal maps. While Tidal Crash does cancel animations faster, you don't want to slot it in for everything you do. Take for example, your main attack string you'll be using in every boss, Thunderbolt into Annihilate. These 2 keep you stationary, which unless you're dodging certain attacks in a boss fight, is ideally what you want. Doing this string backwards, using Annihilate into Thunderbolt, doesn't cancel the animation, and is much slower. Remember the order. When bursting, and you have Primal Bolt active, it's best to use Gale into Annihilate for faster attacking during your burst. Spamming Gale itself leaves a big window of opportunity of about half a second while its animation is playing out, and you can fill that gap with Annihilate and cycle those 2 back and forth for way more damage. I'll end off this section with a utility focus, air stalling. When you use Ascension in the air, typically you can only use it about 4 times after an up jump, and about twice when used from the ground without an up jump. Your aerial pseudo animation cancel would be First Job's Lightning Punch. Link these 2 together, and you'll get a bit more airtime, which is useful in certain bosses when you need to avoid the ground for a bit of time. Thunder also has a slight niche use of being able to reset the height increase of Ascension in the air if you have enough height left to use both Thunder, followed by Ascension afterwards. There's a lot more attack strings to be mentioned, but I feel these ones are the most important for understanding the guide in its entirety here on out. Thunderbreaker pretty much uses all their skills they get throughout every job rank all the way up through and into 6th job onward. The only one that doesn't have much use whatsoever would be Shark Sweep. It has some niche use cases for breaking boxes, but other than that you can safely take it off a keybind. Everything else is good and useful for multiple reasons, whereas Shark Sweep really isn't. Don't forget to pop your toggles on. Arc Charger for an extra line of damage, and Lightning Elemental for lightning charge buildup. Both are incredibly useful for everything you do. TB gets a few skills with right-click to toggle specifications, and most are pretty handy, so let's go over them again. Tidal Crash's toggle lets you cancel its animation by clicking the skill itself again. Sea Wave's toggle disables the lightning ball coming out at all whatsoever, which is arguably the worst toggle here, but it can have some uses. And Lightning God Spear Strike's toggle makes it automatically activate every time it builds up 8 stacks and is off cooldown. Since you have actual speed infusion built into your skills in the form of a party buff, you have no use for DSI in your V matrix other than for passive all stats from it being a higher level. Free up that node slot for something else. For grinding, try and find a map you're comfortable with, optimally one that's long horizontally. Then all you have to do is spam Thunderbolt, chained with Tidal Crash to cancel its animation and move yourself further along. Adding in Flash afterwards helps move yourself further along faster too. You can also toss in your 5th job skills whenever they come off cooldown, for a little more coverage, as well as Gale for both its damage buff and big damage. And, of course, toss in any map summons like Urda Fountain for more map coverage if needed. For bossing, while I did mention Thunderbolt into Annihilate is your bread and butter skill link combination, you also have to keep in mind that's not all you can do. Toss in a Shark Torpedo and Phalanx Charge every time those come off cooldown. Even when you're not under Primal Bolt, you can still chain Gale into Annihilate every 12 seconds for a bit more damage as well. If you need to move out of the way of an attack in a boss fight, yeah, why not chain whatever attack you're currently using into Tidal Crash to move while still attacking? Thunderbreaker is a class with many options when it comes to both grinding and bossing, but once you master how to flow most of your more important skills together, this class becomes really fun, really strong, and really mobile. Oh, also, don't forget that your only iframe besides your origin at 6th job is Deep Rising. While Thunderbreakers can use cooldown hats, according to the Thunderbreaker Discord, it's seemingly negligible both ways you go about it. Having a hat that's at least got a singular -2 second line makes grinding rotations flow a bit smoother, a hat with at least -4 seconds is useful purely for Culvert, and a hat with 3-line main stat is apparently just the strongest overall damage-wise. The only skills affected by cooldown reduction on a hat would be Shark Torpedo, Gale, and Lightning God Spear Strike. Nothing else. Link skills, no, not the attacks, the passive ones, are the same as every other class. For grinding, Evan, Aran, Mercedes, the holy trinity of longer rune duration, more combo orb XP, and increased flat XP respectively. Lara added in for normal enemy damage, and then fill in the remaining slots with whatever damage increasing links you either have or feel like using. Anything looking like this is very usable and fine. For bossing, just anything that increases your damage, boss damage, IED, crit damage, crit rate if you're not quite at 100% yet, those kinds of links. Don't forget AB's link, terms and conditions, for when you're ready to burst too. That damage buff is massive. A layout like this is good enough too. Don't forget to slot in resistance link if you wanted an 8-second iframe every time you revive in a boss fight. Incredibly useful. Oh, also, for both setups, you're a Cygnus Knight. You have that whole extra side slot for adding in other knights for a bit more flat attack and resistances, so stuff that up too. It's a free slot. Inner ability seems to be what most classes default to nowadays for the most part. That's right, if you watched my 2 previous guides, Aran and Shade, it's about the same as those. For bossing, the first line you'll want boss damage, for more boss damage of course, and second and third lines would be abnormal status damage for more damage against debuffed enemies, and buff duration purely for a longer AB link. Flat attack is a fine enough settle too, if you can't quite yet get buff duration or abnormal status damage. For grinding, same as it ever was for every class. Drop, meso, and normal monster damage. Thunderbreaker's Trinodes are fairly sensible. This first one is geared mainly towards bossing, so it's the best choice for boss mules. But for TB mains, since you're going to be chaining nearly everything else you have together very frequently, yeah, it's good for grinding too. It consists of Thunderbolt, Annihilate, and Gale, which also boosts Typhoon. Thunderbolt is a mobbing skill, but you do use it in conjunction with Annihilate while bossing. Annihilate obviously is your main bossing move, and Gale/Typhoon is the skill you spam when your Primal Bolt is active. The secondary Trinode, which again isn't geared towards anything in particular, but is more useful while grinding, is made up of Ascension, Deep Rising, and Tidal Crash. Ascension has uses both as a bonus up jump for more vertical mobility, and also for air stalling, to stay off the ground for a bit longer in certain bosses. Deep Rising originally wasn't in this Trinode, but with TB's upcoming 6th job masteries in the near future, it was slotted in over Thunder's original inclusion. That's pretty much the entire reason it's here. And Tidal Crash is useful for nearly everything you link with it, due to its animation canceling properties, meaning at a point you'll be using it pretty frequently for most things you do. For Burst/BA, obviously make sure your Lightning Elemental and Arc Charger toggles are both on, since that's just free damage forever. Next, buffs like Roll the Dice set to 5 for extra damage, and Speed Infusion for extra attack speed. Any other decent skills you want activated would be best to use here too. Now just pop the rest of your buffs, like Glory of the Guardians, Lightning Cascade, Empress Cygnus' Blessing, Primal Bolt, and then Overdrive and AB Link at the very end of all of that. Exhaust every last stack of Lightning Spear Multi-Strike immediately after casting AB Link, and once that's done, cycle into the Link combo of Gale into Annihilate until Primal Bolt's duration ends. After it ends, you can go back into using Thunderbolt into Annihilate, and toss in Shark Torpedo and Phalanx Charge every time they come off cooldown. Shorten down, toggles, buffs, Glory of the Guardians, Lightning Cascade, Empress Cygnus' Blessing, Primal Bolt, Overdrive, AB Link, Lightning Spear Multi-Strike 12 times, Link Gale into Annihilate for the remaining duration of Primal Bolt, then Thunderbolt into Annihilate after that ends, while tossing in Shark Torpedo and Phalanx Charge off cooldown. When you reach 6th job, you slot in your origin right after you activate Lightning Spear Multi-Strike, but make sure to only click Lightning Spear once, and then your origin, and then use up the rest of the multi-strike stacks after your origin ends. Thunderbreaker doesn't really get an off burst, which is fine because all their important cooldown skills cap out at a 2-minute cooldown anyways, meaning TB is comfortably a 2-minute class. Just stick with Thunderbolt into Annihilate until it's time to full burst again, while also including Shark Torpedo and Phalanx Charge when you can. I'm an absolute fiend for classes with wicked high mobility, and I wish more people were. Maybe they are and I don't know it yet, I don't know. Thunderbreaker is insanely fun to me, just for how fast they can move through maps with little effort. That, compounded with the fact they got a ton of skills for doing just about everything else you can imagine, that feels really good to get the hang of. Since I like the class, and I personally think my TB looks really cute, yeah, I'm definitely coming back to this class in the future and pushing them to 6th job. The events we've been getting lately have been absolutely littering XP sources of every imaginable kind, so me coming back to them shouldn't be too far away, I imagine. Thanks to the Thunderbreaker Discord for having an extremely comprehensive guide to nearly everything you'd want to know about this class, as well as organizing every section of their FAQ to be purely useful information. Not only that, their skills section helps give a thorough enough idea of what every skill in this class does. I really appreciate that. Oh, also, thanks to you for watching my guide. If there's another class you want me to go over in the future, or any other kind of Maple-centric videos, suggest them to me down in the comments. If you like my guides or just want to support the channel, consider subscribing to the channel. I'm honestly happy I saw some people asking for Thunderbreaker, because I remember really liking them when they got reworked back in Ignition. Up next, I have a pretty good idea of what I want to do next, so hopefully I can get them up to 260 before then, and cover them as fully as I possibly can. I'm pretty confident I can, but we'll see. That's all.